All right, so are you ready to dive into some really funny stuff?
I know I am.
We're going to be talking about autocorrect fails and
I love those.
oh, they're the best
Yes.
misheard lyrics. And the hilarious ways our pets just completely run our lives.
Yes.
We've got a whole stack of clips from the Quirky Quokka hour to go through.
Oh, fantastic.
And these guys, they just know how to find the funny in everyday life.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. We're not just going for laughs today.
Oh, okay.
We're going to use all these kind of quirky examples to explore some pretty fascinating psychology along the way.
I love that. That's what I love about this kind of approach. It's like sneaking in a psychology lesson.
Totally.
While you're cracking up.
Sneaky learning.
Sneaky learning at its finest.
Sneaky learning, it's the best kind of learning.
Yes.
Okay, so let's start with those autocorrect moments that make you want to, like, chuck your phone into the ocean.
Oh, yes.
Remember that story from the show about the person who accidentally texted raccoon?
Instead of report to their boss.
Oh, that is a classic.
Oh, it's so good.
And it really highlights how humor comes from the unexpected.
Right.
Like, our brains are constantly trying to predict what's coming next.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, familiar situations, like texting your boss.
Right, right.
So when raccoon pops up instead of report, it's like, wait a minute, that doesn't belong there.
Doesn't compute.
It's that violation of expectation that triggers laughter.
I see. Yeah.
It's like, wearing a tuxedo to a backyard barbecue.
Yeah.
It just feels wrong.
Yeah. It's just,
Out of place, it's inherently funny.
I see that, but sometimes those autocorrect errors are like more cringeworthy than funny.
Oh, for sure.
Like accidentally agreeing to something that you did not want to agree to.
Yeah.
Have you ever been a victim of one of those autocorrect ambushes?
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's like the digital equivalent of putting your foot in your mouth.
Yes.
But even then, there's a certain absurdity to it.
That kind of makes you laugh. Yeah. After the initial panic subsides.
Later, yeah.
It's all about perspective.
Perspective, yeah. It's amazing how these tiny little typos can turn a totally mundane text into, like, a Shakespearean comedy of errors.
Yeah.
And it makes you think, what is it about these, like, weird, unexpected word combinations that just make them so funny?
Well, I think part of it is just the juxtaposition of, like, two totally unrelated concepts. Like raccoon and report, they just clash. And they create this feeling of absurdity. It's like your brain's trying to make sense of this nonsensical pairing.
Yeah.
And that struggle itself is kind of funny.
Right. It's like our language suddenly becomes this, like, playground of unexpected meanings.
Yes.
And our brain's like, whoa, what's happening?
I don't know the rules anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It's not even just about the words themselves.
Right.
It's also about the context, right?
Absolutely.
Imagine getting a super formal text message from your best friend. Or like a hey dude.
Or vice versa.
From your college professor.
Exactly.
That kind of unexpected language in an unexpected setting can be hilarious.
It's all about breaking those unwritten rules of communication, those norms we just expect.
Right.
It's like a surprise guest showing up at a party.
Yeah.
Like it just throws everything off and you have to reevaluate.
It shakes things up.
Yeah.
And sometimes those disruptions lead to the best kind of laughter.
Totally.
It's like life's just reminding us to not take ourselves too seriously.
Yes.
Now, I'm curious. For you as a listener, have you ever gotten a text message
Oh, yeah.
that was so formal or so informal it just cracked you up?
Yeah. Think about that.
Think about that, because we are going to be right back to explore more of these wonderfully weird quirks.
Wonderful.
After a word from our sponsors.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay, so let's move on from the texting shenanigans of autocorrect.
All right.
And head into the world of misheard song lyrics.
Okay.
So, in the world of the Quirky Quokka hour, Taylor Swift is a Starbucks lover, not a singer with a long list of ex-lovers.
Right.
And Guns N' Roses, apparently, they're all about that sweet chili mine life.
Oh, yeah. Those are good ones. Mondegreens.
Mondegreens,
as they're officially called.
Fancy.
They're not just funny. They're really like these little windows into how our brains work.
I like that.
It's like our ears and our minds are playing this game of telephone.
Yeah.
And sometimes the message gets a little scrambled.
A little scrambled for sure. And it's not even just about mishearing a word or two, right? Like sometimes a misheard lyric can change the entire meaning of a song.
Oh, absolutely.
Like you've been singing it wrong for years, and then all of a sudden you hear the real words.
Yeah.
And it's like a completely different song.
Totally different song. Like for years, I thought Jimi Hendrix was singing, "Excuse me while I kiss this guy."
Oh, wow.
instead of kiss the sky.
Oh, that's a classic.
It completely changed the vibe.
I bet. It really makes you wonder, like, what is going on in our brains when we mishear lyrics like that?
Well, you know, it all comes down to auditory perception.
Okay.
Which is just a fancy way of saying how our brains process sound.
Right.
Our brains are just, like, bombarded with sensory information all the time.
Yeah.
And they had to filter and interpret all that data in real time.
So it's like they're trying to make sense of this jumble of sounds.
Right.
And sometimes they just take a shortcut.
Exactly.
Okay.
Things like, you know, pronunciation, accents, even background noise can make it tricky to figure out what you're hearing.
Yeah.
And then you add in music,
Right.
which often has a fast tempo,
Right.
complicated melodies.
Yeah.
No wonder our brains get things mixed up.
Yeah. It's like trying to put together a puzzle while you're riding a roller coaster.
Right. Exactly.
And, you know, it's not just about the sounds themselves.
Right.
Our brains also use context and, like, prior knowledge to try to fill in the gaps.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like if you're not familiar with a certain song or an artist's style, you're way more likely to mishear the lyrics.
That makes sense.
Your brain's essentially trying to, like, fit these unfamiliar sounds into patterns that it already knows.
So our brain is always trying to predict what's coming next based on our, like, past experiences.
Exactly. And sometimes those predictions lead us down the wrong path.
Oh, for sure.
Especially when it comes to lyrics.
Right.
But, you know, what's interesting is that sometimes songwriters, they play with this phenomenon on purpose.
Really?
Yeah.
Like how?
Like, think about rhyming slang or double entendres.
Okay, yeah.
They're kind of deliberately using words that sound similar to create ambiguity.
Yeah.
They know that listeners might misinterpret them at first.
It's all part of the fun.
It's part of the fun.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
So those misheard lyrics, it's not just our brain messing up. It's sometimes a deliberate artistic choice.
Totally.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It makes you appreciate songwriters even more.
For sure.
Doesn't it? But speaking of creative minds,
yes,
let's talk about those furry little geniuses that share our homes.
Oh, yes.
Our pets.
Our pets.
So the Quirky Quokka Hour paints this hilarious picture of pets like as these adorable tiny tyrants.
Yes.
Who secretly run the show.
They do.
And, you know, honestly, I kind of think they're onto something.
I think so, too. I mean, who hasn't felt the silent but powerful reign of a demanding dog?
No, yeah.
Or a judgmental cat?
Oh, yeah.
It's like they just get what they want.
They do.
Without saying a word.
Right. The show highlighted those, like, demanding dogs who act like they're your personal trainer. Cats who, like, hog the keyboard like they're your essential coworker.
Oh, yeah.
And even those judgmental goldfish who seem to just, like, disapprove of all your life choices.
Yeah. You know, it's funny.
Yeah.
But it does raise this interesting question.
Yeah.
About human-animal relationships.
Right.
We often project human qualities onto our pets.
Yeah.
It's called anthropomorphism.
Okay.
And this can totally shape how we see their behavior.
So instead of seeing a dog who's barking at the door just because they need to go to the bathroom, we might see it as like a demand for attention.
Exactly.
Or a power play.
We make up these whole stories around our pets.
Right.
You know, giving them complex motivations and emotions that they might not actually have.
Right.
But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Even though anthropomorphism can lead to these, like, funny misunderstandings, it really speaks to the deep bond we have with our animal companions.
I see. So by, like, giving our pets human-like qualities, we're kind of acknowledging them as individuals.
Right.
With their own, like, personalities and quirks.
Yeah. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That sense of connection is what makes our relationships with our pets so rewarding.
Right.
But we have to remember that their behavior is often driven by instinct.
Yeah.
And, like, how they've learned to interact with their environment.
So that dog, who seems to be, like, demanding walkies at the crack of dawn, might just be following their internal clock.
Totally.
They just need to get some exercise.
Yeah, they're not trying to, you know, control your schedule or anything.
Right.
Understanding the why behind their behavior can help us respond to their needs better.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, make our bond stronger.
Right.
Take cats, for example.
Yeah.
Their tendency to, like, sit on keyboards.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
During important calls.
Every time.
might seem like they're trying to mess with us.
Yeah.
But it could be, they're just trying to get attention.
Yeah.
Or maybe they want the warmth from the device.
Or maybe, they are trying to take over the digital world.
That could be it, too.
You never know with cats.
You never know.
So their motivations might always be a mystery.
Right.
But it's clear that all those kind of bossy behaviors often have a simpler explanation. Like they're rooted in their instincts or their learned associations.
Exactly.
So it's not about them being little dictators. It's about us learning to understand their language.
Yes.
And meet their needs in a way that respects, their nature.
Right.
It's almost like a cross-species communication challenge.
I like that, yeah.
It's so interesting how even the smallest, silliest things can tell us so much about ourselves.
Totally.
It's like we've been on this treasure hunt through all these everyday quirks, and we found all these nuggets of insight about psychology and communication and even the way we relate to our pets.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
Yeah.
It shows how all those random bits of humor and odd behavior are actually clues to these deeper patterns and processes.
Yeah. So what would you say is the biggest takeaway for everyone listening? What should they be thinking about as they go about their day?
I think the main thing to remember is that there's always more than meets the eye.
Yeah.
Whether it's a hilarious autocorrect fail or, a misheard lyric that changes the whole song.
Yeah.
Or even your cat's uncanny ability to walk across your keyboard at the worst possible time.
The worst time.
There's always something to learn.
Yeah.
There's always something to laugh about.
Right.
There's always something to make you think.
It's like we've been trained to just ignore all these little quirks.
Right.
To just think of them as random glitches in the Matrix or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But what we've seen today is that they're really little windows into how our brains work and how we communicate and the amazing complexities of the world around us.
Exactly. It's about shifting your perspective a little.
Yeah.
Seeing the humor, the insight in the everyday.
Right.
And it's not just about passive observation.
Yeah.
It's about actively engaging with these quirks.
Right.
Question your assumptions.
Okay.
Use them as springboards to explore further.
I like that. So as you go about your day-to-day, dear listener, I really want to challenge you to pay attention to those little moments that you might not even notice otherwise. Maybe it's a funny sign you've never seen before. Or a conversation that takes a totally surprising turn.
Right.
Or even just thinking about why a certain song lyric always makes you smile. Embrace those moments. Question them.
Absolutely.
See where they take you.
The world is full of all these quirky little wonders.
It really is.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Right.
All you have to do is open your mind.
Yeah.
And look a little closer.
And on that note.
Yes.
We'll leave you to ponder all the mysteries of the everyday.
Have fun.
Until next time, stay curious.
Stay quirky.
And keep diving deep.